All right, welcome to the first episode of what we're going to call Mascoma's Burn Lab. I am your host, Lukus, and today I have with me...
co-host Aaron Burns, and today's guest is Olivia Salamy.
Wow.
Salamy.
What's up?
All right, topic for today is all the debate going around in our sports leagues of the country, having to do with disrespecting the flag and such.
So, Aaron, why don't you tell us a little bit of the backstory, because you're more familiar with it.
Yeah. So to begin things off, it was a couple of years ago when this guy named Colin Kaepernick began our topic for today by taking a knee during the national anthem before games, and then from then on, it just spiraled down into
all sports, even women's professional soccer. I know that Megan Rapinoe was one of the first women to do it.
Yeah, and now NFL teams aren't even coming out of the tunnel for the national anthem and such. They're just staying in the locker room. Army generals and stuff have been emailing the commissioner of the NFL complaining how disrespectful this stuff is. And
yeah, I mean, I know obviously the president's had a lot to say about it, as he has to say about just about everything.
It's disrespectful.
Yeah. But I thought it was quite interesting when you get into entire teams doing this, but then also the owners of not only those teams but also the NFL just clashing against whatever the players are doing. It creates this interesting conflict between the face of the NFL and the owners of the NFL.
Yeah, it's a classic case of a private business, or it's a public service almost, but against what our beliefs in our country. And we all know that our flag stands for so much, so you can see it both ways. They have the right to do what they're doing, but at the same time, it can be seen as disrespectful as they're being paid millions of dollars.
It might not be the right platform to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would agree with. It's first of all, I know a lot of what started this was racial injustice, especially with the police force and everything. And I don't think kneeling during the national anthem is really sending the message across that you're trying to fix that. That kind of protest, especially in a sports game, isn't sending across any message that's yeah, we need to fix this really, issue that needs to be addressed, but the correct way. And this isn't accomplishing anything. And I think it's just making people mad.
Yeah. It's because of there's been NFL players been dealing with the same brutality from police that normal people are doing, and they are disrespecting it. It's definitely not the right platform for it. I don't think.
Yeah, but I mean, when people go into freedom of speech and things like that, and it's sure, they have the right to do this, but it kind of goes back to especially here in a school setting, yeah, we have the freedom of speech by the Constitution, but we can't just say whatever we want in the school. And so I think that's kind of a good analogy for the NFL regulating what these players are doing in their platform, in their business. Yeah.
Multiple NFL owners, such as Jerry Jones, I know you guys probably don't know who that is, but he's the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. They are worth the most money out of any of American sports. Their stadium is huge and everything. But he's come out and said that anybody that has found any of the players found disrespecting, or in his mind disrespecting the flag, are going to be suspended for a period of time and such, because he's taking action because he feels as though it's not right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel that kind of action, it only hurts him in the long run, though, right. Because you need your players.
Exactly.
But then again, I think if the NFL, and the owners especially, want to send, this message of, patriotism, then they have to address the issue. But how do you do it? And that's...
And I don't know how it's really dealing with social injustice and such, them kneeling during the national anthem, which I feel relates more to our troops across the world and such, not exactly the police force.
At this moment, what are they trying to get across with doing this? Because I know at the beginning, 2 years ago or whatever, all of these, it started with, Colin Kaepernick, and he was an African-American football player, and he was kneeling during the national anthem to boycott and protest police brutality, and then everyone started joining in. But now I feel that's not as hot of a subject, so what is the main cause of why they're doing this now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I felt like it was just kind of racial injustice in general, I guess. But I think it's gone to the point where what they're standing for or what they're kneeling for isn't really clear at all. And like I said, in that kind of, areas, especially sports games, it's like you're not there to protest. Like, if you want to make a change, then do it the right way.
So now it's just becoming, you think, kind of a general social injustice boycott for football, kind of based around football, because...
Yeah, it is. Well, as you said, it is spreading to other sports. I know first game of the hockey season, one of the hockey players was like the first guy to kneel during the national anthem. People stick up fists and stuff. I know it's a big trend in why it spread was because of they felt their voices weren't being heard in this country, and this was the best way for them to do it. And they felt that they were almost helping out what their race was in like making their like voice heard, but at the same time I feel like they're just splitting us up even more.
Which I do agree that they are good models to get ideas across to young people, but again, doing it in the sports realm environment might not be where their employers want them to be, because here's where they're getting their sponsors and their money and everything that makes them a professional athlete.
Right.
But if they want to make that behind their name, then they should do it behind their name, that not behind their sports team to...
Yeah, but I think you run into this problem where, like, some of these players are the faces of their sports team. So even if they're doing something that's not related to, the game or, like, anything with the sport itself, making that statement goes back to the people that watch all these games and see, these are celebrities. Everybody knows their names, and if they want some sort of social activism, then they can bring it about. And I think they should be allowed to do that without repercussions in the game itself. But doing it at the game, I just don't think is helping anybody.
And the guy that started it all, Kaepernick, is actually without a job right now because he was signed by a different team after being released because of...
Well, I'm sure the millions from before, it's just he's going to run out of that. So that's a big deal for him.
He started on the 49ers, right?
Right, and then the Dolphins picked him up, but then they let him go because of all the outside media he was causing. Players were having to answer questions about him and such. But and then there's these two other guys, Earl Bennett and Martellus Bennett, two brothers in the NFL. Over the summer, during the off season, one of them was brutally attacked by allegedly like the Las Vegas Police Department or something. And I know they weren't protesting or doing anything, getting involved up until then. And then once that began, now they're like very outspoken about how like against they are and how they are for this protest, this sense of protest.
Yeah, well, I think we've realized a point, like, especially I think it goes back to our president a little bit.
Yeah.
When, I think whenever you look at any issue like this, you have to just take a step back and not just get angry, because they don't intend to, I don't believe that they intend to disrespect our troops or anything like that people use our flag to symbolize. What they're trying to do is draw attention to this issue. And, I believe they have every right to do that and that we do need to do that. But the methodology is just poor. Because
now I feel like people are getting... Their attention is going to these people, but not for the right reasons now. Yeah, it's not going... They're not being looked at for their underlying reason of, let's look at police brutality and understand how much of a big deal it is right now. Now they're just being looked at like, oh, these athletes are being so disrespectful. So, yeah, it's not... They need to change their way of going about their protest.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think... making a statement not in, the stadium and, like, actually standing up for what you believe in, but just not at the sports game. I mean, that's not what it's there for. And, not that I feel bad for any of the NFL owners, as they're all millionaires, but it is their business, and I can respect that.
Yeah.
So I can understand why they would want to, keep any acts like this to a minimum because it reflects on their business, whether that's in a, good or bad way.
Right.
So I really do get where they're coming from, but I think it's just kind of a weird issue.
I think the whole respect for the military is kind of caught in the middle of things. Like, they weren't the intended target at all, and a lot of us Americans that are kind of more like, America, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're like, you're disrespecting our military. People are dying for what this national anthem stands for. But all these millionaires, they are not outspoken against them. They're not trying to disrespect the military. They're just trying to voice their opinions, which they are entitled to do as Americans. So.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like, I know that a lot of people hold our flag to this great meaning and the national anthem to this great meaning, but it's like, that doesn't mean anything if you don't, like, do these other things that we tried, that we should be trying to do for, like, our veterans and, everyone in the military. It's like, just standing up for the national anthem, you're not doing anything for them. You're not helping them, You're not thanking them for what they've done.
Exactly.
So I can see, I'm not saying you should kneel for the national anthem, but, it's just like, people get really angry about that, like, every time somebody doesn't say the pledge or doesn't stand up. And it's like...
But what are you doing in your part? Is that what you're saying?
Like, no, I see what you're saying, but I'm like, you shouldn't take pride in just doing this one thing.
Yeah.
Because if you're not doing anything else, then it doesn't mean much. I mean, I think one of the most important ways as Americans that we can honor those that have fought for this country is to, use our political and social views that we're given, the powers that we're given for those things, and say what we believe in.
Yeah.
Now, again, shouldn't be kneeling at a game. Like, that's not saying anything unless you're, like, anti-American, which would just be stupid at a game. But, it's like, I don't know. People get, like, really angry about it. And personally, it doesn't bother me that much. I just think it's not helping anyone.
Yeah, it's not constructive. It's more destructive than anything.
Yeah. All right, so is that going to be it for this week?
I believe so.
So anyway, that's been the first episode of this podcast. I hope you liked it. Should be a weekly thing, hopefully. Yeah. Probably just going to discuss issues that are, kind of relevant, or I don't know, I suppose at some point they're just all the same, but we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
So, and again, today we had Olivia as our guest. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you.